Job 29, 30 and 31. Let's see. David. Hey, my favorite people. I love y'all and Sunday night. You love Sunday night? I was almost late. Australia wanted her head scratched. What type of animal is that? Is that a cow? Or is that a hog? Or is that a dog? Or perhaps a kitten? It's hard to tell with you, David. It's hard to tell with you. Oh my gosh. 800-pound longhorn cow. I feel like it's an appropriate answer. Oh man. That's wild stuff, man. When we grow up, we want to be just like you in that regard. Probably other regards as well, but that one for sure. Discord is open. So if you're watching this later, we have a Discord. There's a link to the Discord pinned in the live chat at the tippy top. There is a link in the description of all videos. Every Monday, we do a topic discussion on a different YouTube channel at Tattooed Theist. And tomorrow we are continuing a conversation with AI about AI and the soul, basically. And then whatever else comes up. Thursday, Book of Giants and Enoch still. I think we're like 90% done. Saturday, the Apocryphon of John, the secret book of John, which was very, very good. Very good stuff we did last night. So there will be more of that coming this next Saturday. That'll be good. That's a great question, actually. How many of those pounds are in the horn? 6 foot of horns, so a lot. It's got to be a good bit. Horns are heavy, man. If you ever pick those up, it was shocking to me. I was like, man, I didn't know that much of the weight was in them, but I guess it makes sense if you think about it. Do they all shed horn? I'm gonna look like a real jackass right now, but that's not new. Do they all shed horns? Because my understanding, I'm not a hunter or anything, is some or all deer and like reindeer and whatnot, they shed the horns, but they're not called horns. They shed their antlers, right? For like a part of a season, and then it comes back. Does that same thing apply? Okay, he says no. Okay, thanks, David. Thanks. No, period. Very official. Like that to me says no, you dumbass. They do not. I got it. Understood. No problem, David. I'll just shut up over here. It's okay. It's okay. So I wonder what the difference is then. I don't know enough. This is something I need to look at. Which animals? What's that?
You're pretending like you're not married to someone who knows everything about every animal who's ever existed.
She does, and maybe she does know the answer, but when it comes to like deer, I don't believe she knows a whole lot about that. But you know, I'm probably wrong, and I'm probably gonna get yelled at. So fair point.
All right.
Fair point. Doing good, Mikkel. Are you and JB at it this evening, sir? That sounds so nice. They had a church I worked for a very short time for reasons I have discussed. One thing they did do that was interesting is they had, and I'm sure a lot of churches do it, and I just don't know about it, but they had like a brewery in the Bible where the boys would just go out and go to like different breweries in the area we were in, and they would do like Bible study there. I thought that was a pretty good idea. It's a pretty good idea. I'm sure it was pretty disarming for a lot of guys, and it's a great way to get people to show up to a Bible study. Is alcohol. It wins, and it did really well. I'm sober and clean 100%. Okay. Today? That sounds definitive. And I don't know if that's true. Cat said, I know about the deers, man. I know how to swoon them with my incredible vibes so I can boop that snoot, if you know what I mean. Yes, but do you know about the antlers? My love, do you know about the antlers? Because that is the question. Because I had a book last week about antlers. That's why it was in my head. She had a book about reindeer and their antlers. And I was like, man, that's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. But I wonder now, across the animal kingdom, of those with horns and antlers, horns don't shed, do they? Unless you're in Africa and a rhinoceros, then they shed by forceful means to be sold on the black market. But horns are permanent, are they not? And then antlers are shed. Perhaps that's how it works. Males do shed theirs, yes. Male what's reindeer? God the Son, Jesus Christ saves. One of the longest names, but not the longest, but one of the longest. It's good to see it. It's been a while. Okay, I believe 31 is kind of long. So I'm going to start reading and interrupt me at any point. I feel like David has an attitude right now. David, are you okay? Are you okay, sir? Did I insult you by asking a stupid question? Because I feel like you have become short and cold ever since I asked that stupid question. Saves time in chats? How is that? How is that? I guess I could see a couple different reasons for that.
Speaking of chats, could you pull that up, Joe? And
yes.
The verses.
Thank you, because I would have not. So thank you. I type and write like Hemingway. David's on some stuff tonight, man. The deer, their testosterone drops after breeding season is done with. Therefore, no more antlers. What? Okay. Well, I'll save my questions. This doesn't need to become me looking like an idiot about antlers. I get enough of this. The name evangelize. Okay. I kind of figured. I mean, you force people to say it. It's not a bad plan, man. It's pretty slick. The summary defense. So finally, we're actually moving out of the conversations, which is great because it does get old and repetitive. But they do progress and they're interesting, but it's difficult to do when you only read it once a week. When you breeze through it, it makes a lot more sense and you can see the progression much more clearly. Either way, though, 29, 30 to 31, we shift away from the back and forth between the friends and Job, and things start to finally move again. So I'm in a deer hole. What? And Job again took up his discourse and said, "Oh, that I were as in the months of old, as in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone upon my head. And by his light I walked through darkness, as I was in my prime, when the friendship of God was upon my tent, when the Almighty was yet with me, when my children were all around me, when my steps were washed with butter, and the rock poured out for me streams of oil, when I went out to the gate of the city, when I prepared my seat in the square." The gate of the city thing has come up a number of times, at least a couple of times. But this was like, I think we talked about it in Genesis, where the gate of the city was like it was like the town square, basically. So in a lot of places, you'd have the markets there. Oftentimes, you just have people kind of hanging out, talking, pub type vibes. It was an assembly place. And oftentimes a place where people would speak, either privately or publicly, and then you have the market and whatnot. So when I went out to the gate of the city, when I went out to the public square, when I prepared my seat in this square, the young men saw me and withdrew, and the aged rose and stood. The princes refrained from talking and laid their hand on their mouth. The voice of the nobles was hushed, and their tongues stuck to the roof of their mouths. When the ear heard, it called me blessed, and when the eye saw, it approved, because I delivered the poor who cried for help, and the fatherless who had none to help them. He's still responding. This is the end of all the responding, but he's he's summarizing, in a sense, all of the charges against him to date. Everything that has been said about him, he's retorting. So he was told that he didn't care about the widows, didn't care about the poor, didn't care about the fatherless, and now he's responding to each of those points individually. The blessing of him who was about to perish came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy, saying he did right by the widows. He took care of the widows. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like a robe and a turban. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy, and I searched out the cause of him who I did not know. I broke the fangs of the unrighteous and made him drop his prey from his mouth. So he did the right things, so much so that he stopped people from doing the bad things. Then I thought, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand. My roots spread out to the waters, with the dew all night on my branches. My glory fresh with me, and my bow ever new in my hand. My glory fresh with me. He very much obviously thought that he was going to be that way forever, that he would be the man that he's describing forever. And although we know he is still, he's been led by his friends to believe otherwise, because only the wicked suffer this kind of consequence. So now this is how he feels. He feels as though he does not have that he's not that person anymore. And then you have the inward ambivalence, because he knows that he is. And it sparks all the confusion. My bow ever new in my hand is like, I think they have a different translation that comes up sometimes that's rather different. Yeah, so I was revitalized regularly. Pretty different. My bow ever new in my hand versus I was revitalized regularly. It also, the same words came through Genesis 49:24. And there in the ESV, it's the same. The bow is used. Yet his bow remained unmoved. His arms were made agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. From there, blah, 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 blah. But the same term was used. So Job, again, still expected to keep what he was, to keep his strength, to keep his glory in this context, up and through old age. And now he feels like he's losing it. Men listened to me and waited and kept silence for my counsel. After I spoke, they did not speak again, and my word dropped upon them. They waited for me as for the rain, and they opened their mouths as for the spring rain. I smiled on them when they had no confidence, and the light of my face they did not cast down. Cast down has been thrown at him too, because everybody, the roles have reversed, where he was above and now he is below, socially. I chose their way and sat as chief, and I lived like a king among his troops, like one who comforts mourners. Retort, retort, retort. Oh man, we're having an antler lesson up in here. Okay, I'll have to read that later because I'm actually curious. Okay, I'll come back. This is 30, but now they laugh at me. Men who are younger than I, whose fathers I would have disdained to set with the dogs of my flock. The people who are now mocking Job are not from families of a high social status. So there's actually, it's a pretty dramatic verse. But now they laugh at me, men who are younger than me, age, status-wise. You respect your elders, big thing back in the day. Whose fathers I would have disdained, so men not of his value or class, so that's 2. To set with the dogs of my flock, that's 3. Because dogs were not what we see them as today. Dogs were scavengers back during this time. They did not have a good public image at all. What is written about dogs in the Bible is not nice, and what is written about dogs in most ancient texts is not nice. Dogs did not become a human thing, a companion to the peoples, until quite a bit later, if I understand correctly. But it's mentioned quite a bit through Exodus, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, Psalm, and Proverb. even have similar mentions of dogs in a very negative context. It really conveys how trash a person is or how trashy a person is being. But usually it's in context of a scavenger in a negative context. What could I gain from the strength of their hands? Men whose vigor is gone. Through want and hard hunger, they gnaw the dry ground by night in waste and desolation. They pick saltworth and the leaves of bushes and the roots of the broom tree for their food. So the food here, saltworth and the leaves of bushes, are I don't want to say it like that. I need to be mindful. It's very, very, very poor, I guess would be the way to say it. Like low class, poor. This is what you would eat if you had nothing. If you were just desperate for food. These are the things you would get caught eating. The Hebrew word ramen. That's great. Yeah. That's great. This is the term in Hebrew. That's a term that's used that's related to salt. And it does not occur elsewhere in the Old Testament, only here. In the rabbinic work, the Talmud, it is referred to as the food of the poor. So that's where that comes from. And it's just this one spot where it's specifically spoken about, or where the term is specifically used, I guess I should say. They were caught eating microwaved hot dogs. I've been on both those trains before in life, man. Come a long way since the hot dogs and ramen. I guess I never microwaved. Yeah, I have. That's a lie. I totally have. My thing when I was not in the greatest of places was like beans and cut up hot dog thrown in a pan on the stove. And ramen hard for a very long time. Ramen. For many years. Many years, the ramen game. It's good stuff. It's just, it's death to your insides. They are driven out from human company. They shout after them as after a thief. In the gullies of the torrents they must dwell. In holes of the earth and of the rocks. Among the bushes they bray. Under the nettles they huddle together. A senseless, a nameless brood. They have been whipped out of the land. Mikkel. Because God has loosed my cord and humbled me, they have cast off restraint in my presence. So the Hebrew word here for that's underlying under the green text, where it says, because God has loosed my cord. The term of the verse is here and can refer to the central cord of a tent. And it was used in Job 4:21 when it said, is not their tent cord plucked up within them? Do they not die, and that without wisdom? So both are representations of something else. And then you have the string of a bow, which is brought up in Psalm. For behold, the wicked bend the bow. They have fitted their arrow to the string to shoot in the dark at the upright heart. The idea behind either option is that Job has been dramatically and might say embarrassingly humbled before and by God, which has resulted in him being ridiculed and mocked. Unfortunate for him. Tent cord is silver cord connected to death. Tent is body. I think there's a lot to that. And I find it kind of interesting that the tent thing, I feel has been largely ignored. Like as I suppose symbolically, but it shows up a lot in the Old Testament. And then in the New Testament, I find it kind of interesting that you have carryover there as well, which in a lot of cases, these things don't. A lot of the symbology from that comes to mind that is found in the Old Testament, I feel like does not carry over to the New Testament. You kind of get new symbols in some regards. Obviously, some definitely do. But tent is kind of an obscure one that I feel is not talked about a lot. But I agree with what Ghost said there. And I think that's quite a rabbit hole as well, actually. Because God has loosed my cord and humbled me, they have cast off restraint in my presence. On my right hand, the rabble rise, and they push away my feet. They cast up against me their ways of destruction. They break up my path. They promote my calamity. They need no one to help them. As though a wide breach they come. Amid the crash, they roll on. Terrors are turned upon me. My honor is pursued as by the wind, and my prosperity has passed away like a cloud. Old Testament tents, New Testament mansions. Did that come to me directly? Because it is not. Is this something I need to ponder for some time?
I think it's just in reference to upgraded bodies. In my Father's house are many mansions.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. That's interesting, yeah.
Because if tents are just regular old bodies, mansions would be upgraded bodies.
That's interesting. Have you really dug through the New Testament reference to like make direct connections?
No, it just jumped out at me while we were reading.
That's interesting though, because that's always been one that's odd to me. The mention of mansions, and I've never looked into like the Greek on it or anything specifically, but it's always seemed kind of out of place to me.
I do think that's what it means. It just means places of dwelling. So that could be a body. What is the ontology of a body? Who knows?
Yeah, that's
but it's an upgrade from tent.
Right.
Huh. So that's just the connection I made. I've actually haven't looked into it very much. So
I think it's worth looking at. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought. We served.
I think I'll look it up right now while you read.
Yeah, if you come up with anything, interrupt me. Because I find that interesting. Because mansions has always been odd to me. You don't have to respond to me, but if you find anything for sure. Mansions, I've always just found it odd and kind of out of place. I don't believe it's mentioned again at all. And if it is, maybe in a parallel gospel. But I don't believe it's brought up anywhere else. It's always just seemed kind of odd. But in the context that Ghost is talking about, like that's kind of a clear, obvious potential answer of interpretation. Outside of that, it's odd. In that context, I think Ghost makes a good point.
I mean, that's what Google's saying here. It just says tents often symbolize the temporary earthly life and our bodies, while mansions, or more accurately, rooms or abode, represent the eternal heavenly home.
Do you have the Greek
to believers?
You have the Greek word for mansion, by chance?
No, I'm gonna look it up. That'll take me a second.
Yeah, it's all good. Just let me know, because I'll try to quickly pull up like if it shows up anywhere else or not. We serve Vienna sausage to the hungry for the first time what? Oh, I'm just stupid. We serve Vienna sausage to the hungry for the first few years of the ministry before we got fancy. What does fancy mean? So you went from Vienna sausage to what? Out of curiosity. Vienna sausage. I don't know, man. I'm so easy to please when it comes to food. I'm so lucky that I have a woman who truly knows how to cook, because I'm just like in heaven all the time. Because I could live off very little, and I did for a very long time. I was a low class eater until cat, basically. Hot meals on Hot Wheels, baby. All right, I'm trying to remember. I think we left off at 16.
This just says Monet dwelling places. It seems to be generic. The metaphor is of the God, the Holy Spirit, indwelling believers. Mansion, abode. So it seems to be, at least they're using the same metaphor as tent, but it seems to be more upgraded, because tents are temporary dwellings. Like a more modern thing could be like hotel, like if you were to use a hotel as a metaphor.
Right. Yeah, actually, so I just pulled something up and I think I remember going through this once. So if I remember correctly, and I'll verify, but I believe mansions is a poor translation. Um I,
I think
I
it is too.
yeah, I believe it's I think the ones that translate it different is like the many rooms thing. And I think in English we're like, mansions have many rooms. That's a great way to express that. Which I mean is I guess true in a sense, but many rooms could, I don't know, it's more specific, I guess. You're not pigeonholed into like one expression or perception of what it is. I'm still curious what, yeah, Monet is the word. I just want to know if it shows up anywhere else.
I could look into that. It probably does.
See, I don't think it does, but I could totally be wrong.
That would be odd if it didn't, if it just shows up in one spot.
Right.
Because it's a generic concept, it seems like to me.
Twice. So in John, no, so once. In John 14:2 and in John 14:23. Okay, so twice. In my Father's house are many rooms or mansions. As we talked about, this refers to dwelling places in the Father's house. Jesus preparing an eternal house or home for his followers. And then in John 14:22, if a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him. And we will come unto him and make our abode with him. Same term. So translated there to abode rather than mansions or dwelling place. Yeah, because this is why I found it odd. It all coming back to me now is that mansion's bad translation. A good way to get people to understand it, but not if you're trying to be accurate. And then it just like isn't talked about. It's not used anywhere else, at least from what I'm finding. And I'm using AI that's super trained on the Bible. But this is why I found it kind of odd. And this then perpetuated some of my curiosity with like the Gospels. So this being John, one that is already questionable in some regards. And I just wonder, like, culturally, why did the author of this text choose the term? What was the reason?
I think it stands as a juxtaposition between tent, which is temporary, unextravagant housing, versus permanent, extravagant housing.
Right, but you wonder why no other mentions? Just this one author in two places, and that's it. Or do you think the same concept is expressed in a different way? And this was just
That's
one.
what, yeah, I think that. I
Okay.
think he's just being creative with how he wants to describe it.
Okay. And I think that would be fair. I think that would be a reasonable way to look at it. I just want to, it's not something I've ever looked at, and I don't know if I ever will, but I would like to look and see where is that term used outside of the canon now, and what kind of authorship are those things? Where did they come from? Who were the authors? And where does the same term pop up in a similar context? So I'd be curious to see that, because I wouldn't be surprised to see it being used in non-canonical texts in the same type of context, where you can still draw that parallel between the tent and the upgraded abode. It would be it'd be
I guess
interesting.
anything that talks about like divinity or
Right,
where the gods live or something like that.
right. And I'd be shocked if you couldn't find it. I think it'd just be
Yeah.
something kind of interesting to look at. But that was a good one to point out.
Yeah, it just jumped out at me. I didn't mean to sidetrack too much.
No, it's a good one, dude. It was very good. I lived off bagels, bread, coffee, never water, nay, Jersey Mike's, and that's it. For literal years, I only learned how to cook out of love, and thank God I was gifted off the bat. Yeah, you were very good. David, for the first 20 years of my life, I hydrated with black coffee and JB. Hence the reason Michaela and I are hooked up at the hip. I had that period. Rude said, I used to use cut up hot dogs and baked beans as a dip for Ruffles chips. See, like, that sounds incredible. It sounds embarrassing, but incredible, if you're being honest. Sounds very good. Very good. And cheap. It's cheap. It's affordable. It's a great way to live. I'm looking now. I'm stuck on this freaking tent thing now. So I'm gonna pull myself away from it. But I think I will actually look into this because I'm curious now. I think the connection is very interesting, and then the New Testament bit. Now I want to know where the same. I want to know where the exact same connection is being drawn outside of the canon, and then like go so to anything kind of outside of that direct connection, but in context to divinity. I'm very curious now. Interest
There
has
is a
been
Greek
piqued.
term called okyterion, and that only shows up twice, I think, in scripture. I'm gonna look up to see where that shows up because that is also, it might even, is it the same verses? It might even be the same verses, I'm not sure, but it just means like upgraded dwelling place.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Do it.
Yeah, I'll look into that while you read.
Yeah. That's it's interesting, man. That was a good one. Very good one. All right. We are on 16. And now my soul is poured out within me. Days of affliction have taken hold of me. The night racks my bones, and the pain that gnaws me takes no rest. Hold on, y'all. I got bounced again. Here we go. Okay. With great force, my garment is disfigured. It binds me about like the collar of my tunic. God has cast me into the mire, and I have become like dust and ashes. I cry to you for help, and you do not answer me. I stand, and you only look at me. You have turned cruel to me. With the might of your hand, you persecute me. More of the legal language. And I believe 31 is kind of a wrap up of the court case mentions and kind of overarching context. You have turned cruel to me. The might of your hand, you persecute me. You lift me up on the wind. You make me ride on it, and you toss me about in the roar of the storm. For I know that you will bring me to death and to the house appointed for all the living. Yet does not one in a heap of ruin stretch out his hand, and in his disaster cry for help? Did not I weep for him whose day was hard? Was not my soul grieved for the needy? But when I hoped for good, evil came. And when I waited for light, darkness came. My inward parts are in turmoil and never still. Days of affliction come to meet me. I go about darkened, but not by the sun. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help. I am a brother of jackals and a companion of ostriches. This is kind of interesting. So this type of mention, from what I know, is one other place, a book nobody ever reads, in Micah 1:8, where it says, "For this I will lament and wail. I will go stripped and naked. I will make lamentations like the jackals and mournings like the ostriches." So it's specifically the same. And the interpretive idea is that these animals were obnoxious and screamed, which if you know the animals, you know is like pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate. So it's just kind of funny. So one other place in Micah, the same exact comparison is made, and it's because the animals, when they wail, and it's quite loud.
Weren't they also scavengers?
Yes, for sure. But the direct context, like I cry for help. I am brother of jackals. I am companion of ostriches. I guess you could extend it to that, though. Yeah, I think that would be fair.
I see.
But
right.
I think it's probably more likely. But I mean, they both apply. They both apply. But I stand up in the assembly and I cry for help. I am like a jackal. I am a companion of the ostriches. But yeah, they were not highly viewed animals either. Very few animals were. My skin turns black and falls from me, and my bones burn with heat. My lyre is turned to mourning, and my pipe to the voice of those who weep. Now, I wanted to read this for 31 because it encompasses some of the comments I've made about the next phase we're going into. So Job finishes his speech with a lengthy oath swearing his innocence. This is what we're about to read.
Hey, Joe, before you
Yes.
start 31, could you scroll back up to 23 and tell me what that makes you think of?
23. For I know that you will bring me to death and to the house appointed for all living. The house of the living.
That verse reminds me of Sheol.
Right.
I'm either crazy or that's what he's saying.
No, I think you're right on.
Okay.
I
I
think you're
just
right
wanted to
on.
like touch on that real quick.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And I think if you were to probably cross it with the other mentions of Sheol, I bet it would fit. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know if there are any underlying words to specify it. Like Sheol is not in it, but I don't know Hebrew even remotely.
The house that every man is appointed to enter, and the death is in the sentence. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair.
All right, cool, cool.
Alrighty. In it, so lengthy oath swearing his innocence, what we're about to read. In it, he lists many specific sins: lust, falsehood, adultery, mistreatment of servants, failure to care for the poor, trusting in wealth, idolatry, rejoicing at enemies' misfortune, lack of generosity, hypocrisy, and abusing the land. He denies that he has committed any of them and asks for a hearing so that he can be vindicated. So again, this is kind of like a final summary, in a sense, of everything that's happened, all the conversations that have happened. And he's just going to run through each and every one of them and then leave you with an oath. He's going to make an oath. Job has already sworn an oath, asserting his innocence with the oath formula, as God lives. And we talked about that when it happened. It was in chapter 27. Here, though, next, he will use a formula similar to may God or may Yahweh do to me. So a different formula, but the same concept, the same expression of trying to, is promising, essentially swearing. It's also used in Ruth and First Samuel. It looks like the same type of language in context of an oath. Job is so sure of his innocence that he pronounces curses on himself if he is found guilty, because he again is going to wrap everything up by asking for judgment from God. The court case, whole deal there. All of these curses involved aspects of Job's life that were not affected by the catastrophes he has already experienced. Oh, hold on. Whoops. Jude 1:6. The angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under the darkness for the judgment of the great day. That's interesting too, actually, because that's a very specific verse. That's like a very isn't that the let me see something real quick. Don't want to speak out of turn. So Jude 1:6. I thought there was a footnote here, but I'm not seeing it, so maybe I'm thinking of something else. All right, what was the other one? 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians. 5:2 says, meanwhile, we groan, longing to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling. Is it the same word for dwelling?
It's the same word.
Okay.
So it's insinuating that we will be like the angels that sinned, or at least have bodies like they had.
Right. Right. Very interesting.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. Okay. And just those two popped up?
Yeah, that's the only two times that particular word is used. Okaterian.
Very interesting. Okay. So you have those two. I wonder if there are any other words, because Greek was complex. It was complicated. I believe
In a lot of ways it was, but Koine Greek wasn't as complicated as like High Greek.
no. Yeah, no. But so I think when you compare, and I mean, don't take this with a grain of salt because it's off memory, but I believe Hebrew has, some odd number of words and terms for expressing things. I believe Greek has a multiple of that. And if I remember correctly, that was a part of what was so difficult for the Greek when they were translating, and why so many things got lost. Like the virgin birth, in my opinion, is potentially one of them, where they were doing the best they could. And because there were so many different ways to try to express it, some things got lost in translation there. So I wonder.
And that's why it's hard to do English as well, because how many words do we have for dwelling place?
Yeah, right.
So many.
I'm actually kind of curious. Hold on. Got to be a ridiculous amount. Yeah, I mean, so you're talking, if you're going to be strict and not lenient, maybe 15. But if you're going to broaden it, 20, 30. But they'd be loose. They'd be loose. I think probably like of ones that would be obviously used, a few decent ones. Dwelling, abode, place, living quarters, shelter, lodging, residence, house, home, mansion, estate, manor, villa, palace, chateau, hall, hut, cabin, shack, cottage, bungalow, hovel. I don't know that word. Usually very, very poor conditions.
The problem is it could be talking about body, or it could be talking about planet or galaxy or anything.
I've never thought about it outside of the body context, but that's true. Yeah. That would be a thing for me, is like the answers in the aggregation, or the best you could get, in my opinion. But that's also just how my brain works. So I would aggregate and see which one makes the most sense.
Unless they're coming from like a different place on this planet, which is also possible.
True. It's definitely possible. It's impossible. It's definitely possible, and therefore impossible. But either way, that's interesting. So you have these two terms basically in Greek, at least two terms, and you have two, I believe, two different verses for each one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, there's probably more if I actually sat and looked.
Yeah, probably. Either way, though, it's interesting. It's very.
I knew about the Okaterian one from back in the day, but the Mane or whatever is new to me.
Yeah, I'm
never looked into it.
I'm reverse. I was familiar with the first, not with the second. It's really interesting, though. I am not upset with you, Joe. I could never be upset with my hero, bro. You're the hero. You got the animals we want. You have all the things we want. You're the man. You are the model and the myth. Oh, okay. Oh, Geoffrey. English is a pagan language that does not mix well with Latin, Greek, or Hebrew. I don't want to be the guy, but I'm going to be the guy. Pagan is not a thing. So what do you mean exactly? With love and respect, genuinely. Pagan is a big term that applies to so many different things, so you have to be more specific. Because it doesn't work like that. Pagan's not a thing. It's a super broad umbrella term. That was anything that was not the religion of choice, essentially. Religion, culture, behavior of choice was considered pagan. It just became an insult for the most part. So be more specific.
And English, as it existed in the time of Christ, wasn't even English. So like,
right, not at all.
They're all pagan, aren't they? Like anything other than Hebrew or Greek or whatever.
That's a fair point, actually. Yeah, everything would be
pagan. And even Greek's pagan. So like, what's not pagan?
Yeah, Greek would definitely be pagan as well. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. So your religious perspective, if depending on who you are, either it could go one of three ways, I guess. Either Hebrew's pagan and Greek is pure, or Hebrew is pure and Greek is pagan, or they're both pure and everything else is pagan. The way I see it. But I'd be curious for your clarification on what you mean, because I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Latin would be pagan.
The Hebrew borrowed words from their neighbors as well, just like everyone does.
Yeah, there's no Christian language at all. I don't think. I would say. Yeah. I mean, language is kind of a culmination of it's a cluster F of cultures meeting and trading and things developing over time. The study of language is very interesting. It's extremely interesting. And once you spend some serious time on that, you realize just how kind of ridiculous it is. That we just make these weird sounds and eventually we start to understand each other, and then we change the sounds for cultural reasons and social reasons, and then it becomes more complex, and now we live in the world we live in today. Where language, we pretend like there's rules, and there's kind of rules, but not really. The rules are very fluid. We change them all the time. Sorry, Germanic that turned into English. Okay. So Germanic is pagan. That does not mix well. Can you retype the whole thing? I'm sure I'm just dull, but I want to make sure I'm actually understanding what you're saying because I am curious. In the meantime,
I mean, he could be right as far as like saying like the syntax and like the rule set of English doesn't mix well with other types of languages, and that's true. But I mean, that's true about a lot of languages not being compatible.
yeah, for sure. I mean, dare I say it's true about most languages. I mean, you have like these spots, right? Like Ukraine and Russia and a lot of the Asian areas and some of the African areas. But like outside of that, move from those hot spots and try to cross two of those hot spots. It's a catastrophe, total catastrophe. So if that's what he means, I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, Hebrew to Greek was no good. So then you're already at a disadvantage. And then Greek to virtually anything else that was in the surrounding areas was also no good. And so thus the mess that we have. And then throw in like finding these Coptic texts, which is a language most scholars don't understand still, and trying to translate those, and not into something of a surrounding area, but into 2000, I guess it was, the 1940s to 60s for a lot of them, into 1940s or 1960s English. Catastrophe. The fact that we have what we have is incredible, and we owe a lot of these scholars a massive debt, especially when it comes to stuff like Coptic, because that stuff's wild. Egyptian and Greek mixed, menage a trois. It's called American. That's what Christians speak. My man, Graves.
Right.
All American. All right. 31. I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I gaze at a virgin? What would be my portion from God above and my heritage from the Almighty on high? Is not calamity for the unrighteous and disaster for the workers of iniquity? Does not he see my ways and number all my steps? If I have walked with falsehood, and my foot has hastened to deceit, let me be weighed in a just balance, and let God know my integrity. Exclamation point. If my step has turned aside from the way, and my heart has gone after my eyes, and if any spot has stuck to my hands, then let me sow and another eat, and let what grows for me be rooted out. If my heart has been enticed toward a woman, and I have lain in wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another, and let others bow down on her. Spicy. For that would be a heinous crime. That would be an iniquity to be punished by the judges. For that would be a fire that consumes as far as Abaddon. It would burn to the roots it would burn to the root all my increase. If I have rejected the cause of my manservant or my maidservant, when they brought a complaint against me, what then shall I do when God rises up? When he makes inquiry, what shall I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? If I have withheld anything that the poor desired, or have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or have eaten my morsel alone, and the fatherless has not eaten of it, for from my youth the fatherless grew up with me as with a father, and from my mother's womb I guided the widow. If I have seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or the needy without covering, if his body has not blessed me, and if he was not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have raised my hand against the fatherless, completely lost where I was. Hold on. 23? 22? Where did it bounce me? If I have raised my hand against fatherless because I saw my help in the gate, then let my shoulder blade fall from my shoulder, and let my arm be broken from its socket. for I was in terror of calamity from God, and I could not have faced his majesty. If I have made gold my trust, or called fine gold my confidence, if I have rejoiced because my wealth was abundant, or because my hand had found much, if I had looked at the sun when it shone, or the moon moving in splendor, and my heart has been secretly enticed, and my mouth has kissed my hand, this also would be an iniquity, to be punished by the judges. Heavy on the courtroom scene here. It's really on me today, just bouncing around. Here we go. But very heavy with the courtroom thing. He's going through each individual line item of what has been brought up, all of the charges, and he's trying to respond to them, developing this big final oath to God. Charge me. Take me to court. If I rejoiced at the ruin of him who hated me, or exulted when evil overtook him, I have not let my mouth sin by asking for his life with a curse. If the men of my tent have not said, who is there that has not been filled with his meat? The sojourner has not lodged in the street. I have opened my doors to the travelers. If I have concealed my transgressions as others do, by hiding my iniquity in my heart, because I stood in great fear of the multitude, and the concept of families terrified me, so that I kept silence, and did not go out of doors. Let me read that one again. Because I stood in great fear of the multitude, and the contempt of families terrified me, so that I kept silence and did not go out of doors. Oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Oh, that I had the indictment written by my adversary. Surely I would carry it on my shoulder. I would bind it on me as a crown. I would give him an account of all my steps. Like a prince, I would approach him. If my land has cried out against me, and its furrows have wept together, if I have eaten its yield without payment, and made its owners breathe their last, let thorns grow instead of wheat, and foul weeds instead of barley. And that is the final oath. And so we have a rebuke of the friends, which is good stuff. So that'll be next week. Hopefully just Ghost. Everything looks okay on my side, but that doesn't mean much. I have learned. Well, we got a few minutes, so if y'all have anything, we can discuss it. But we got a good little rabbit hole tonight. Some stuff that I want to look at for sure. David said, I have great news. It's that time again. Sometimes you trick me with it. That's how you know you're good. That's how you know you're good. You're the man. Good rabbit hole tonight. Some stuff I definitely want to look at. Interesting terms. But I want to see where they show up outside of the canon, just out of curiosity. And tomorrow we do the AI thing. So just as a reminder, it'll be the two models side by side, one untrained model, and we're asking about AI and the soul. Could AI have a soul and things of that nature? And then the other model is highly trained on this type of conversation specifically. And so it's already been interesting. This is the reason we didn't get very far. There was good conversation in there. So we're just going to pick that back up. And then next week, I think, as of now at least, I think Ghost is going to kind of run the show on a different AI and the soul. So if you haven't seen, highly recommend, because it was super interesting. If I think it was an off topic, right? No, theology. In theology, there is a subcategory or a thread, I guess they're called. Does AI have a soul? And then a conversation with ChatGPT was also very good. But does AI have a soul? It's very long, but I believe the latter posts are the condensed version of it. But all of it was interesting. It was very interesting. So Ghost is going to kind of run through that, and I'm just going to pick it apart and ask questions, clarifying questions.
I would hope that a lot of people would ask questions too.
I assume they will. I mean, it's an interesting deal. It was really, I sat and was just going to try to run through a few of them, and I got completely captured. And I read all of it. It was super interesting, and then I read the other one too, a conversation with ChatGPT. But it was good. I'm excited for that. I'm going to try to come with some specific questions, and then I'm sure the rest will just kind of come. But that'll be exciting.
How are you going to rig that up to have us speak to it?
So the plan is, and I'm going to test it tomorrow again with other devices. So I'll use a cell phone and another computer. But in the Discord voice chat, I should be able to just link it so that the whole Discord audio through my interface feeds as the microphone to ChatGPT. And then anything that plays through a browser feeds through the audio interface so that y'all hear it on the stream and stuff. So I'm hoping it works no problem, but we will see. I think the only snag there might be is that if you're only in Discord, you might not be able to hear the AI. I think you'd have to have YouTube open as well. So that might be the issue. I'm looking at it. But
yeah, that's true. I don't know how you would fix that.
Right. That's my problem. And I'm sure there's a way to go around it. I just don't know. But I can't split the audio to go to YouTube and to Discord. I'm sure there's a simple way. Not simple. I'm sure there's a way to do it. So I'll look into that a bit. But that's the only foreseeable issue.
All right, cool. I mean, yeah, tomorrow night, I mean, because all my questions kind of have been answered from that conversation, so I don't even know how much I can add, but it'll just be fun to kind of see what it does, see what people ask.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll have some prompts that, and now I'll double check it with yours so we're not doing the same things, but I'll bring some sideways stuff. We'll see. I have no doubt that the time will be filled. It should be good. The demiurge with the plan. In at the bell, then we get the echo 10-second delay. Yeah, that would be problematic. I think you get the delay if you're in both of them. David, 7 p.m. tomorrow, Central Time. 7 p.m. Central Time. We'll see. I'm going to play with it tomorrow beforehand. And if I can't get it to work, we'll just have to do text. But I'm hopeful. And I'll see. There's got to be a way to split the audio so it goes both places. I just don't know how. So I'll see if I can get that figured out. Ask it the fundamental difference between soul and spirit. Did we? I don't think we did, actually. So maybe. Yeah. Maybe we will do that. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't think we did that.
I don't think so. No.
Which is kind of what my stuff is trying to get at, so it'll be like foreshadowing.
Yeah, true. Okay. Yeah. I'll post some stuff from that perspective. That's a good idea.
Well, I'm going to hop off here because I have to make dinner.
All right. Good deal. Have a good night.
See you guys later. Love you. See you tomorrow.
See you. Love you. Everybody else I'm out too. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Time for the AI stuff. And if you have anything you want to ask it, just throw it in off topic and tag me, and I will make a list. Around souls and spirits and stuff like that. We'll keep it on topic, and then we'll start doing this more often. Love you very much. As always, bye, Casper. S. Mill says. Love y'all. Have a good night.